Good morning everyone, happy Sunday and happy month of May. I hope you are comfy. Month of May is actually one of my favourite months of the year along with December. It's my birthday month. I was born on the 14th. I'm a Taurus. I'm going to be turning 38 this year. Most people around me, most people my age actually hate birthdays or are indifferent to them. I love my birthday, I always have, so I'm very much looking forward to it, especially the food. I always kind of order the same thing each year because it's my favourite food ever. It's barbecue food and I can't wait to have that. I have it once a year. I have a huge spread from this absolutely amazing restaurant that smokes meats, and yeah, I just can't wait for that. It's actually going to be a bank holiday here on the 14th. We've got a lot of bank holidays in May. There was the first, there's going to be the 8th, the 14th and the 25th. So quite a light month in terms of work, and plenty of time for reading, I hope. So yeah, fingers crossed. I'm going to be wrapping up April in this video. I hope you are settled and comfy because I read 19 books in April, which is insane to me actually because April was quite packed for me. I had I've been telling you about my waltz classes and about the fact that I actually attended my first mini ball last month or something, I don't even know, in March I think, and I can't remember, and I attended actually my full-scale ball in April. That wasn't really planned, it was a last minute thing. My boyfriend decided to treat me to my first full-scale ball. It's expensive, it's one night, it's quite expensive, about 200 or so, my first full-scale ball, and and it didn't quite go as planned actually. I was kind of, I think I told you actually, but I ordered my dress back at the beginning of March for my first full-scale ball, which is going to be at the beginning of summer, and it arrived 1 week before this ball, before the ball that I attended. So it was serendipity. I thought, well, this is a sign I'm going to be attending this ball. It wasn't planned, but let's go, especially since my boyfriend offered very generously to buy me my ticket. So he bought the ticket. I attended the ball, and my dress, it was kind of a lace dress. It was a corset dress. The front was a corset dress. I had it adjusted at the seamstress, but still, within the first 20 seconds of my dancing, it actually, the top of the dress kind of fell, and it was very uncomfortable. I didn't trust my dress for the rest of the night really. I ran to the bathroom, a girl kind of laced me right back up, Titanic style, but it was still just, damage was done and I just couldn't really dance for the rest of the evening. So I spent 4 hours on a chair watching people dance. The ball itself was absolutely wonderful. It was an amazing evening, an enchanting evening. I enjoyed it so much, but I would have enjoyed it more if I had been able to dance. So hopefully next time, I ordered a new dress and hopefully next time I wouldn't have this problem anymore. It's a huge investment. Buying dresses is an investment. I bought shoes which don't fit either, so I have to return them, and I have to receive new shoes as well. I have to kind of train myself to walk with those shoes. They've got heels, I'm not used to heels. It's a whole thing. But the evening was again very enchanting. The people were so kind and the place was absolutely breathtaking. It's a whole new level. You know that you've entered a new territory when anything you attend is actually open bar for the entire evening, soft and hard drinks. I thought, what is this? I barely drank. I think I drank a sip of wine at some point, but still, it's just, yeah, it's a whole new level of society, of elegance, and I'm just so pleased really that I just found this, and I can't wait really to improve my waltz technique and to dance for nights on end really, so Cinderella style. Hopefully it's going to happen soon. I was quite disappointed and quite frustrated with this evening because it didn't go as planned, but I met some lovely people, again some lovely people, I had some wonderful chats, and hopefully the one at the beginning of summer is going to go much better. So yeah, fingers crossed. So I had a lot going on, especially since actually this ended at 3 in the morning. I don't know about you, but I'm 37 and I'm not used to going out until 3 in the morning, and so I'm really a grandma, so I go to bed at 10 p.m. and I just wake up at 6 every single day, and yeah, just going out until 3 a.m. was rough. I came home at around 4 a.m. I couldn't go to sleep, so I had to do an entire weekend without sleep, and it actually took me, it's just now that I was able to fall back into my regular sleep pattern, so it took me about a week or so to recover from that one evening, which yeah, shows you the damage and shows you the age also. So yes, very interesting. Okay, let's go into my April reads. I read 19 books of Zane, and in all sorts of categories, but I was actually very surprised because without realizing, without making it much of a plan, I kind of hit all of my categories. So I read books in all of my major categories, I suppose, which is good actually, because again, there was a variety of books to read from. I was going through mini reading slumps, I suppose, and also times when I just couldn't wait to couldn't put the book down and just couldn't wait to read the next chapters. So again, a great variety of reading reading rhythms and reading styles and just reading life in general. So in April, let's start with historical romance. So I read Tea and Scandal by Joan Smith, which is where am I going to put the covers? Let's put the covers here. Well, no, you can't see the teapot. Let's put the covers here. So I read Tea and Scandal by Joan Smith, which is Regency romance. I've read a few books actually by Joan Smith by now. I really like her. This one is about Jane, who is she's actually fired from her teaching position, and she has to join her aunt, who has just inherited a huge amount of money, a huge inheritance from her former employer. So she was her aunt was a housekeeper for this very rich man, and on this estate, and she has just come into money through the inheritance that he left her, and she is actually managing this estate right now. All of her neighbours are gossiping about the situation, of course, and so they all come knocking on the door, trying to find out what happened and trying to find out if her aunt actually you know, obtain all of this inheritance through nefarious means. So and Jane is staying there. There is a romance between Jane and Fenwick, who's one of the neighbours, and also Jane has got a sister who's quite artistic called Tess, and there is also a romance between Chas and Tess in this book, which is very interesting actually, because Chas is, I don't want to spoil anything, but he's related to people in the book, and in an unusual way, and he has to work through his feelings and to work through his own sense of identity as well, in order to be worthy, I suppose, of Tess in his mind. So that was interesting. This is a book which has got lots of country pursuits and lots of falling through reading, through sharing similar tastes in books, which reminded me of something like Northanger Abbey, for example, with Henry and Catherine. They do a lot of things which you do in the country, and people often ask themselves, like, what do people do? What did people do in those times that didn't work all day? Well, this answers this for you actually. You've got reading, you've got writing, you've got, for example, borrowing magazines for writing habits and to make outfits later, playing the piano, organising the library, that sort of thing. And there is a whole scene here which I wanted to read out loud to you. That's kind of about organising the library. So the romance, again, as I said, is done through sharing the same kind of reading tastes, and I love that about it so much. So you've got this scene right here. You have a deal of buying to do, Miss Lonsdale, Fenwick said, perusing the shelves that held novels. There is nothing here from this century, not even the Walter Scott novels. Posterity will condemn your aunt. They will have no first editions to sell when they run into done territory. Have you tried Scott? Yes, I didn't really care for him, she said. Fenwick stared. You're out of step with the rest of the nation. What did not please you? They were too full of wonders for me. Like Lord Byron, I couldn't warm to him either. That is literary heresy of a high order, ma'am, to denigrate our top-ranking novelist and poet. Next you will claim to dislike roast beef, and I shall know you are a rebel. I'm quite fond of roast beef, I assure you. What writers do you like? He listened with interest, rather surprised this modest lady's daring to express an original opinion. Oh dear, her prim lips told him she was going to say Anna Moore, that sanctimonious purveyor of religiosity. More down-to-earth stories with real-seeming people. I cannot relate to corsairs and banditti and self-indulgent heroes, wallowing in their vague guilt, that Byron gives us, not to the kidnapping and smugglers and gypsies of Guy Mannering. They are too far from anything I've known in life. Yes, it is hard to capture a reader's interest with writing in which nothing exciting happens. I prefer Mrs. Edgeworth and Fanny Burney. For lighter reading, I like Mrs. Radcliffe. Just for a diversion, you know, at the end of a hard day's work, she said apologetically. Fanny gave her a teasing smile. You prefer the more down-to-earth trials of Emily de Saint-Aubert, see? An orphan, a wicked guardian, kidnapping. The appurtenances of melodrama are all right, so long as they centre around a young lady. I take leave to tell you, Miss Lonsdale, you are a fraud. You are shamming it. You like exactly the same sort of nonsense that I like myself. Your only preference is that a lady be the main character of the tale. Jane gave him a sly smile. I see you are familiar with Mrs. Ratcliffe as well, my lord. I love her, and unlike some, I don't hesitate to admit a vulgar taste. I can't speak today. To admit a vulgar taste. We all enjoy the vicarious sense of adventure and romance that is missing from our own lives. So I love this scene actually, which again shows their similar taste in reading. I also read Miss Westlake's Windfall by Barbara Metzger. I have read a lot of books by Barbara Metzger by now, a few books by Barbara Metzger by now, and this one was on par really with what I've read before. It's not a favourite, and I think she's written witchier books. Same with Tea and Scandal actually by Jane Smith, and I think it's her most brilliant novel and her funniest either, but it still was good. So Miss Westlake's Windfall was about Ada, who is penniless actually, and she has fallen on hard times, and she has been kind of refusing the advances and proposals of her childhood friend, and over and over again. She finds, so she's been refusing him, and she also finds in her orchard, she finds a heap of gold, which she thinks is related to a smuggling plot. So there is a lot going on here, hence the Windfall. There is a lot going on here, and it's all about really feeling worthy of a situation as well. And I think I actually misspoke earlier. The secondary plot between Chas and Tess actually happening not in Tea and Scandal, but in Miss Windfall. Anyway, but yes, there is that as well, and it's very well written actually. Both Joan Smith and Barbara Metzger are really good writers, and the descriptions of nature and the detailed writing I really enjoy in their books as well. Some quotes for you. Appreciation of nature. She always lacked the smell, the warmth, the weak autumn sun streaming through the clear ceiling. Unlike Squire's wife, who was eternally increasing, Ada was endlessly fascinated by the odd plants and exquisite flowers to be found in the steamy, jungle-like enclosures. Hocking, the gardener, always appreciated her interest and often advised Ada about crops for the kitchen garden and ornamentals for the landscaping. I love that. There was also absolutely gorgeous waltz scene. So again, I've been learning the waltz since September, so I'm always kind of grabbing any waltz scene that I can and just making it my own, because I just love this so much. It's so beautiful. They danced together like well-practiced partners, for hadn't Chas been the one to teach the Westlake girl after a trip to London? They turned and twirled, gilded and glided and flowed without the need for words. Whatever they needed to say, they said with their bodies, nearly touching in the movements, and their eyes never leaving each other's. Flirting, aye, folly, perhaps, forgetting who they were with, never. Magic, indeed. So good, beautiful, honestly. And I also read in historical romance Bath Tangle by Georgette Hare, who again is my author of the year. I'm trying to read as much by her as possible. So this was not a favourite, again, this wasn't a favourite of hers for me, but it was okay. The heroine was really good actually. I loved Serena. Serena is, this is an interesting novel actually. Serena's father just died, and she has a stepmother who is younger than her. The relationship between Serena and the stepmother, who is again younger than her, is very special. They have a really strong female bond, and I loved that about the book, especially because it was written maybe in the 50s. So the female friendship here is excellent really. They always try to champion each other and to make sure that the other is okay. I love the friendship so much. And Serena is the kind of girl that I really like, and the kind of heroine who I really like as well. Anyway, they are falling on hard times. Their father is dead, and so they've got to join Serena's guardian, who is the Marquis of Rotherham, who she actually jilted in the past. So it's a kind of second chance romance in a way, and with a lot of wit as usual with Georgette Hare, and a lot of detailed Regency paragraphs really. So lots of research about the Regency, and she has a very detailed writing. You really feel immersed in Regency. I think it's her main strong point really, Georgette Hare, is that no matter what you read, you're always learning something, and I love that about her. It's my favourite part of her books really. Just one quote here talking about Serena. But no one could look upon that beautiful face with its lovely, wilful mouth, its lustrous eyes, brilliant under rather heavy, smiling lids, and think its owner cold-hearted. In fact, it was quite the last epithet anyone could have found to bestow upon such a vital, passionate creature like Serena. She was headstrong and obstinate, sometimes quite dreadfully managed, as eccentric as her father, quick-tempered, impulsive, impatient of restraint, and careless of appearances. But with all these faults and a great many more, she had a wealth of kindness and generosity, and a chivalry which made her beloved amongst her father's dependents. I love her. I love her. She's one of those absolutely just wonderful heroines, really eccentric and outspoken and lovely and generous to a fault. I loved her. I also read in the fairy tale retelling category. I thought I was going to read more actually, but just life got in the way. I reread Beauty by Robert McKinley, which is one of my favourite novels actually. I reread it every year or so, and it's not amongst my favourite things. When I think of list of favourite books, I wouldn't say Beauty, but every time I read it I think, oh my god, this is one of my favourite things really. It's one of the best things I've read. It's just so familiar to me. It is pretty much Beauty and the Beast, the Disney version. Beauty was actually written and published way before the Disney version, and I can't imagine that Disney didn't stumble upon this book and read this book, Disney Studio, read this book before making the movie, because it's just so inspired by it, honestly. And I can't believe that Robert McKinley, from the Tale of Beauty and the Beast by the Brothers Grimm, actually just completely made it her own and just transformed it and developed it into this absolutely magical tale. And that was again transformed by Disney later, but she's very much the source. She was never acknowledged for it, but she's very much the source here. And when you read Beauty, just keep in mind that this was written before the Disney movie, which I love, huge fan. This was absolutely gorgeous actually. In this version, Beauty has got sisters, and one of her sisters actually married to one of the villagers, and her brother-in-law is lovely. He helps them so much. Her father, who is he's a merchant, and he has fallen on hard times. One of his ships goes missing with all of the goods on it, and it just sinks at the bottom of the sea, and they've got to make do with what resources they have. They've got huge debts, and eventually they've got to just give up their house and find a smaller house in a village, in a faraway village. So they pack all of their belongings, and they go to this village to take possession of the new house. And they're helped by people along the way. Beauty is a huge reader at some point, which breaks my heart actually. She's a marvelous reader. She loves books so much, and she's kind of deprived of reading at some point because candles just are just not affordable for them in this situation. And so that breaks my heart really, that she's deprived of reading. Anyway, so they go, and at some point her father goes on an expedition, and he takes hospitality from a stranger who happens to be a beast, and then the beast, in exchange for this hospitality that he gave Beauty's father, asks for one of his daughters in exchange. And so Beauty volunteers to go to the castle and meet the beast and live with him as penitence. So a lot to unpack, obviously, but a lot to really fall in love with as well. It's just, the writing is absolutely gorgeous. I love Robert McKinley's writing. It's always so lush and full of wonder and awe, and really magical in the best way, kind of enchanting. There is a fairy tale quality to it, which is just perfect really for this kind of book. They do horse riding, reading. The villagers that are around them, the neighbours, are kind of trying to help them, you know, by leaving like small tokens on their doorstep. They build a bird feeder, for example, that sort of thing. There are lovely details in this book which I don't want to spoil either, but I kind of want to talk about. Beauty and the Beast fall in love through reading as well, and through reading specific things. There was a one detail in this book, which in the castle, which I thought it was just, well, the first time I read it I gasped because it's one thing that actually wasn't in the Disney animated film, although the live action actually has that. The Bill Condon with Emma Watson version has some of that. So yeah, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's in Robert McKinley first, and I really gasped the first time I read it. It's so beautiful and such a nice touch, honestly, to fall in love through reading. Love that so much. About the neighbours' friendship, the friendship of their neighbours trying to help them. Come downstairs, see what your friends have left you. and refusing to say more, he ushered us down to the kitchen. Father met us on the front stair, gazing at a dark rectangular spot in the wallpaper, and was brought along. Downstairs, on tables and chairs and in the pantry, were laid haphazard any number of things, much of it food: smoked hams and bacon and venison, sealed jars of vegetables and preserves, and a few precious ones of apples and peaches and apricots. There were bolts of cloth, gingham and chintz, muslin, linen, and fine woven wool. There were leathers, soft and supple and carefully stretched, and there were 3 heavy fur capes. There was also a canary in a cage, who tried a drill on us when we peered in at him. "We should not have let them do this," said father. "Indeed, I did not know," Jer said. "I am glad I did not, for I am not sure I would have tried to stop anyone. But I only discovered it myself a few minutes ago." Father stood frowning. He had been very firm in resisting offers of charity and in paying all his debts, even when fellow merchants were willing to cancel them silently for old friendship's sake. A few servants had pleaded to stay with us even without pay until we left, and although we could ill afford even to feed them, father could not quite bring himself to send them away. The heart of the book, I think, is this quote, which is very much the Disney tagline as well. "But he's a beast," said father helplessly. I saw that he was weakening, and wishing only to comfort him, and said, "Cannot a beast be tamed?" And there was also a quote which went on for pages and pages, actually, just to show you the writing and the lush writing and the description of the castle, which is full of details. And I love this book so much. It's just to give you a taste of the fairy tale-like quality of this book. After a while, perhaps, so beauty's at the castle already. After a while, perhaps hours, I came to a door at the end of a corridor, just around the corner. On this door was a golden plaque. As I approached, the candelabra set and 2 niches on each side of the door lit themselves. I was becoming accustomed to being preceded in my wanderings by invisible pages carrying invisible tinder, which never sputtered and always lit the first time. And on the plaque I read "Beauty's Room." I just had time enough to make out the words before the door opened inwards. I hesitated. It might be my name, of course, but then it was also possible that the plaque had something a little more abstract in mind, and if I crossed the threshold, I should be blasted at once. On the other hand, I had no idea of the rules of the game I was now playing, and if the castle or its owner was trying to trap me, there were easier ways. That I was here at all was a gesture of defeat and surrender. I looked inside. It was a room for a princess. Even in this castle full of wonders, an enormous bed stood in a dais, canopied in gold, with a white counterpane worked in scarlet and green. Tall wardrobes stood back against the wall to one side of the bed, and as I looked at them, their doors burst open as if from the pressure of the hundreds of beautiful gowns that hung inside. A bolt of deep blue silk stitched with silver thread on the shapes of flying birds fell from some hidden shelf at the top of one wardrobe, and then rolled itself almost to my feet across the ember-figured carpet. Beside the wardrobes were low tables, and upon them were placed jewellery boxes as rare and beautiful as jewels they contained, and more brushes and combs than a dozen vain princesses could use. There were cut crystal bottles of perfume in emerald caps, and vases full of red and white roses. Their perfume shimmered in the air like a rainbow. On the other side of the room was an arch wall of windows that reached in rows and rows of tiny panes from the high ceiling to the padded golden white velvet window seat. Then, with a small gasp, I stepped into the room, philosophical questions of the nature of beauty forgotten, because the walls that met the window on each side were lined with bookshelves. There were hundreds of leather-bound volumes, regal and wise. My fingers touched the smooth bindings reverently. There was a desk with enough drawers and pigeonholes for the most or least organised of scholars, a tall pile of fine white paper, a dozen colours of ink and gilt cut-glass bottles, and pen and nibs by the hundreds. I sat down at the desk and stared at it all. Yeah. So that's Beauty by McKinley. And also, just a quote to show you the comfort and safety and benevolence, really, of the castle and of the beast as well, and its occupants. When I woke up, the sun was high in the sky, staining the dark red carpet with long rectangles of light, turning the ember pattern the colour of pale honey. In the first moment of consciousness, when I knew it was very late, but before I opened my eyes, I thought, how can I have slept so late? I never get all my work done. Why didn't they wake me? And then I remembered, and I opened my eyes and recognised the feel of fine linen under my cheek and fingers. And as memory returned, I realised it was what had awakened me, the delicious, insidious smells of hot chocolate and of buttered toast. I sat up. Breakfast was laid on the table by the fire, which was burning once again. I bounced joyfully out of bed. Every morning in the city, my maid had brought me toast and chocolate. How did they know? Yeah. Lovely, lovely book. She has actually written 2 Beauty and the Beast retellings, Beauty and Rosewater, and I'm going to read Rosewater very soon because it's my wish. Actually, every time I've read Beauty, I thought, oh, I should read Rosewater, just very close to it, just to compare the two, and never did. And I really need to reread Rosewater very, very soon. So Beauty is still fresh in my mind, and I want to see how she rewrote the tale in Rosewater differently. In children's literature, I actually read Basil of Baker Street by Titus. I can't believe I haven't read this before. I actually first heard about this on a Storm Reads channel. So Storm's channel. I love Basil of Baker Street, The Great Mouse Detective, the Disney movie. It's my favourite Disney movie actually, The Great Mouse Detective. It's one of the few VHS that we owned as a child, and so I used to watch it a lot, and I still do today, and I love it so much. And I had no idea until recently there was actually a series of books. So I love anthropomorphic animals, I love anthropomorphic detectives especially, and I just absolutely fell in love with the first book in the series. So Basil of Baker Street takes place in Victorian London. It's about Basil, who is a mouse, and his friend Dr. Dawson actually in this version, and he very much lives with Sherlock Holmes. So Sherlock is actually aware of him, and he passes down tips to him on detecting. And in this book specifically, they've got to track down a mouse snapping of two twin mice, child mice really. So children mice. It's a very descriptive book, more than I actually was imagining it would be. So I wasn't expecting this level of writing really. The writing is really good, and it's very detailed as well in terms of their mouse world. So there are a ton of things which are added really to their mouse world, and the vocabulary used is very good level as well. So it's very, I wouldn't say it's a challenging book by any means, but it's a very good children's book, and it's very detailed. I love the plot, I love the details of mouse life again, and I loved, of course, Basil and Dawson. Just to give you a taste of the book here, just a one sentence. Back in our rooms, Basil filled his berrywood pipe and curled up in an easy chair, deep in thought. I skimmed the pages of the London Mouse Daily. So as you can see here, there's both coziness and also details about the mouse world. I loved this so much. I think there are 8 books total. I'm definitely going to read them next. In historical fantasy, I was actually craving at some point, I've got them right here, but I was craving something like one of my absolute favourite series ever. It's been a while, I haven't shown this to you in a while. The 12 Houses series, actually by Sharon Shin, which is one of my favourite book series ever, and it's adventure fantasy with a group of friends, and I was craving that mixture of fantasy, adventure, just a rollicking good plot really, and something kind of fun and with lots of humour. I did a lot of research before finding this actually, but I found out that the Revelations series by Michael J. Sullivan might fit the bill, in that it's a duo of 2 men who are pretty much sorts for hire, thieves for hire, I would say, and they will take just about any assignment as long as there's good money attached to it, which is interesting. And in the first book, which is actually an omnibus, the first omnibus of the series, there are 6 books total, which are reunited in 3 omnibuses. I don't know why. And the first one is called Theft of Souls, and this is what I read. Theft of Souls is about Royce and Adrian. Royce is a thief, and Adrian is a mercenary, and they both again take any mission really as long as there's good money attached. One day they agree to steal a sword, inside the royal palace. Only when they arrive there, the king has just been murdered, so they are framed for his death. And yeah, that's about the plot of the story really. And it would lead them to a conspiration against the kingdom. It would lead them to a lot of exploration of the kingdom as well, to meet various secondary characters. One of the best secondary characters of the first book of the omnibus was called Myron. He's a monk, and he was sheltered his entire life, so he has no idea what even a pony is. So when Royce and Hadrian actually reached monastery. Sorry, his monastery. They reached him on horseback, and he has never seen a pony before, so he's completely awestruck really by horses and by ponies, by nature and by the wonders of the world. It's darling. I love him so much. And he just disappears after the first book, which was very disturbing actually, because I loved him so much. The second book, the first book is very bantry. It's got tavern scenes, it's got a lot of fun and humour. Royce and Hadrian keep bantering throughout the whole book, which keeps things fun really, and they don't take much seriously. There are a lot of things happening, but it's never too gruesome, at least it wasn't for me, and I would say that the violence is manageable. The second part of the omnibus is a whole, well, it continues the story, I suppose, but it's a whole new thing, and it's a whole new focus. For most of the second part of the book, actually, they have got to defeat a single monster in this tiny little village, and things take proportions which make me think that of course, it's related to the main political conspiracy plot, which is not uninteresting, but it's also very gruesome, very violent. It's a monster, which doesn't keep my interest for very long, I have to say, and it keeps getting darker and darker. I found that the humour of the first part was kind of lacking in the second part, and as the stakes are higher and higher, the humour is less present, I would say, and that really didn't really keep my interest again. So I'm wondering what the rest of the series is like. Is it like the first book, which is very much an adventure plot and again just fun and mostly adventure as opposed to violence, or is it mostly like the second part? I don't know. I'm definitely going to be reading the rest of the series, but I don't know when. It's not going to be a priority. I'm kind of scared really of what I'm going to encounter. Is it going to be just higher and higher stakes each time and less humour, or is it going to be just manageable for me? I don't know. Just a quote to give you an idea of the atmosphere and charm of this book, really, about the tavern warmth, kind of. Several candles set in sconces on the walls and on the meeting table, along with a nice-sized fire burning in the hearth, give us a warm, friendly light. A array of copper pots, reminders of the day when the dark frame dabbled as kitchen storage, hung from an exposed wooden beam. There was room for only one table and a handful of chairs, but it was more than enough for their purposes. The door opened and a small party filed in. Royce poured himself a glass of wine, took a seat near the fire, removed his boots, and wriggled his toes before the hearth. Hadrian, Viscount Albert Winsley, Mason Grimman, and a pretty young woman opted for chairs at the meeting table. Gwen, the owner of the tavern, always prepared a fine feast when they returned from the job, and that night was no exception. The evening selections included a pitcher of ale, a large roast, a loaf of freshly baked sweet bread, boiled potatoes, a cloth-wrapped cask of white cheese, carrots, onions, and the big pickles from the Baron normally kept behind the bar. For Royce and Hadrian, she spared no expense, which included the black bottle of Montmorency wine she had imported all the way from Bandon. Gwen always kept it on hand because it was Royce's favourite. Lovely. In COSY fantasy, I read Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. Heather Fawcett's actually more well known for the Emily Wilde books, and she came out with this COSY fantasy book recently. Word of warning, this is, if you've read Howl's Moving Castle, and if it's one of a few, if like me, it's one of your favourite books, this is pretty much Howl's Moving Castle. It's so much like Howl's Moving Castle, it feels like an overlay at some point. So I hesitated to give it 5 stars, even though it was very good. The writing is gorgeous, the plot is really good. I loved the heroine. The romance was interesting, I would say, and the magic was just full of wonder. But again, it's just so much like another book. It disturbed me at points. Yeah. But Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter takes place in 1920s Montreal, Quebec, and it's about Agnes, who owns a cat shelter. So she rescues cats in Montreal, and she needs to change actually her shop. Her charity needs another place to be. So she relocates her charity, and her new landlord is very much a mystery to her. He has got magic, he's a magician, and he's kind of has got to escape from another more powerful magician, and he's very witty. They've got a very interesting relationship, and the whole book really is about her rescuing cats and he using her shelter as a front for a magic shop, really. So it's a magic shop. She encounters very many different people who are attracted by this magic shop, who know about the landowner, and lots of things happen. There is a lot of magic in this book, and a lot of whimsical magic, but also the scenes of magic which I hadn't seen before, and which really brought me back to this feeling of, again, whimsy and kind of what's going to happen and anything is possible. And I don't know how this works, but this is so enthralling kind of magic, which I really love in Diana Wynne Jones's books, and which I found again here. So very interesting. I love the heroine. Again, she's a very type A kind of person, and she's very focused. She's also grieving, which is interesting actually, because she's older than Sophie in the Howl's Moving Castle, and she's grieving a past relationship. And I thought some of the most moving scenes in this book were actually about that, and about her grief, and about her personality, and how she can move on from that without moving on completely. It was really well done, I thought. So yeah, very much recommend it. Just a quote here about food and comfort. She wasn't surprised the baker had continued his work, though the world was ending. I knew others who had done the same, opening their shops or maintaining social engagements through the storms and the darkness, either refusing to believe that the world wouldn't be saved, or because it was simply how they wished to spend their last days. The bakery smelled of fresh bread and roasted apples, and the weather was painfully familiar, because an echo of it remained in my time, preserved by magic. I don't even know what to say. It's beautiful, honestly. In literature, in Gilded Age, actually, literature, I reread The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. I recently reread The Custom of the Country by Edith Wharton, which is perhaps my favourite book by her. I have read only 3 books by Edith Wharton: The Custom of the Country, The House of Mirth, and The Age of Innocence. And so that was my reread of The Age of Innocence. I can't remember rereading this. I read it for the first time ages ago, decades ago, but that was my first reread, I think. My thoughts actually haven't changed. I saw my review from that day, from back in the day, and my thoughts haven't changed. Just to give you a taste of the book, it's about Newland Archer. I think it's in the 1870s, definitely Gilded Age New York, high society aristocracy. Well, New York aristocracy, I suppose, so new money mostly. And Newland Archer is very much, he thinks himself a man of the world, kind of open-minded, but he's very much a product of his time. He's a man in the 1870s in New York. He has a job that is kind of a front, really. He doesn't need to work for money. He has a lot of money, and he's engaged to May Wieland. May is a very innocent, naive kind of girl. I don't hesitate to call her naive, actually. She's very innocent. She's a very pure kind of girl. And her cousin, actually, Ellen, is the scandal of society. Ellen has just divorced from her husband. She's separated from her husband, I suppose, and she has been living in Europe, and she comes to take shelter, really, from gossip and from her past life with her cousin May and her family. And so Newland meets Ellen, and Ellen is completely different from the rest of society. She's very unconventional. She doesn't really care about conventions, and yeah, things become complicated for him. He thought he wanted a certain kind of wife, and then he meets Ellen, and he realizes that there is another path that is possible. Or is it? Yes, so interesting premise. Like, love the premise. Edith Wharton's writing is, I think, the best part of her books. Honestly, it is so detailed. She has such an intricate connection with this society which she was a part of, and the satire, really, and the scathing commentary of Gilded Age society is impeccable. I don't like Newland, and I wish the book had been written from Ellen's perspective. I wish the book had been written from her perspective, and I wish the narrator wasn't a man. He infuriated me. It was very hard. This book is very hard to read because it's all from his perspective, and you can see the hypocrisy of his perspective and of his personality. He's a product of his time, that he can't really help it. I'm not saying that I would have done indifferent in his shoes. I'm not condemning him for it, but I'm just saying that it's just really hard to relate to his feelings and his thoughts, because they're just so, again, hypocritical, and it's really hard to follow him in his thoughts for the entire book, when really I think Ellen's point of view really is what matters here. That's just my opinion. I think that, yeah, but it won the Pulitzer Prize, so obviously I'm in the minority here. It's just my my own frustration with this book is that it's a wonderful story. I just wish the point of view had been switched. That's it. A few quotes here just to give you a taste of New York society at that time. I'm obviously obsessed with this kind of, you know, society and reading about it, and so yeah, it's always ambivalent to I love Edith Wharton because she's attracted to it, and she loves interior decorating. She loves this kind of, she loves the thing that's just kind of money can buy, but she's not fooled by any means by the kind of people who are also attracted to this kind of lifestyle, if you see what I mean. Mrs. Julius Beaufort on the night of her annual Mrs. Julius Beaufort on the night of her annual ball never failed to appear at the opera. Indeed, she always gave her ball on opera night in order to emphasise her complete superiority to household cares, and her possession of a staff of servants competent to organise every detail of the entertainment in her absence. It takes a certain kind of personality really to organise a ball on the same night as the opera. The Beaufort's house was one of the few in New York that possessed a ballroom. It antedated even Mrs. Manson Mingo's and the Headley Cheverses. And at a time when it was beginning to be thought provincial to put a crash over the drawing room floor and move the furniture upstairs, the possession of a ballroom that was used for no other purpose and left for 364 days of the year to shuttered darkness, with its gilt chairs stacked in a corner and chandelier in the back, this undoubted superiority was felt to compensate for whatever was regrettable about the Beaufort past. Again, excellent, excellent, excellent. And something about a woman's place. The case of the Countess Olenska, that's Ellen, had stirred up old settled convictions and set them drifting dangerously through his mind. His own exclamation, "Women should be free as we are," struck to the root of a problem that it was agreed in his world to regard as non-existent. Nice women, however wronged, would never claim the kind of freedom he meant. And generous-minded men like himself were therefore, in the heat of argument, the more chivalrously ready to concede it to them. Such verbal generosities were in fact only a humbugging disguise of the inexorable conventions that tied things together and bound people down to the old pattern. It's the idea that he can say things which are thought to be generous by an outsider, like women should be free to do whatever they want, because he knows that the kind of women who actually evolve in his society would never do what they want. So it's kind of really empty words. It's fascinating. I hate him. And about convention, that's a discussion actually between Ellen and Newland. What does it matter where one lives? I'm told the street is respectable. It's not fashionable. Fashionable? Do you all think so much of that? Why make one's own fashions? But I suppose I've lived too independently. At any rate, I want to do what you all do. I want to feel cared for and safe. He was touched, as he had been the evening before when she spoke of her need of guidance. So his need for having a woman to shelter is just very much paramount in his thoughts, and yeah, it's going to be his downfall, I suppose, at some point. And also a quote which I think to me describes all of Edith Wharton's work, not just the Age of Innocence. They lived in a hieroglyphic world where the real thing was never said or done or even thought, but only represented by a set of arbitrary signs. She's brilliant. She's brilliant. I love her. I read Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. Oh my goodness, just absolutely consumed me. I have so much to say about this book, and this probably warrants its own video. I won't be filming it because it's just going to take away too much time from reading. But I loved Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh, and loving is not even the word, actually. I was obsessed with it, and again, it consumed me completely. And it was my first Evelyn Waugh. I know that he was a prolific writer. Yeah. I was really consumed by oh, I can't speak today, what is wrong with me? I was really consumed by Brideshead. What? I'm so sorry. This is a tale, if you don't know, of Charles Ryder, who is from a good family, but not an aristocratic family. He goes to Oxford and he meets Sebastian there, and Charles is an artist. He meets Sebastian there. Sebastian Flight is part of a very aristocratic Catholic family at the time, and we're talking about it's just after the war, and he is from an aristocratic family, a Catholic family. He has got a sister called Julia, and they've got a huge estate called Brideshead. And Charles is kind of an outsider looking in that he befriends Sebastian. They have a very, very close friendship. They are, I think the subtext is that they are, I'm going to say it, the subtext is that they are in love. And you never know whether or not they consume their love, but the subtext is that they are in love. And there are lots of references to gay life and to homosexuality in that book. I think it's safe to say that they were in love. It's a kind of love anyway. Anyway, he's taken in by this family, and he's very much an outsider to this family. He's not Catholic. He doesn't understand religion at all, and he is just brought into this aristocratic lifestyle, this kind of comfort and entertainment and luxury, which he has never really thought of before, he has never thought was possible before. They both attend Oxford, and the entire book is written through Charles' perspective, and it's Charles' narration and point of view. Again, the point of view of a man who is an outsider to his family, but who kind of sees his family from the inside as well because of his proximity to them. He becomes friends with the entire family. He's brought in over and over as a guest, and he's invited over and over, and he sees their lives unfolding and how it affects his own life. And Brideshead is very much a nostalgic kind of tale, because it actually opens the first few pages. I don't want to spoil anything, but the first few pages are very much set the tone of a tale that is going to be reminiscent of an age that's really past, and you see like what happened really. So it's the written with the benefit of hindsight. I don't want to spoil too much. Anywho, this book again consumed me completely. I went to Oxford myself. I attended Oxford for a year as a master's degree student, and it was magical, and this really captured Oxford for me so well, and what's really truly magical about student life, but specifically Oxford life. And I loved that so much about it. I loved this aristocratic world, which is presented to Charles as an option but not really. The tension between being outside but inside at the same time was really well done. I disliked every character in this book. I think I loved Charles. I saw so much of myself in Charles. Actually identified with him so much until the very end, when something happens and I thought, okay, interesting and in keeping with the rest of the book, and I see what the author's point was, but it just broke something between Charles and I. So yes, very interesting book. I really wanted to read my review of it, if you allow, because I thought I managed to sum up what I liked about the book and what I thought was so fascinating about the book. I think identifying with characters and taking inspiration from them, as well as making new friends, is one of my favourite reasons to read. So when from time to time I come across a book where nobody is really entirely likeable, it's always a bit of a challenge. I came to Brideshead through the exceptional Granada adaptation. I'd seen the recent movie when it came out, but it didn't leave an impression on me. However, this Jeremy Irons narrated England pretty much consumed me, so I rushed to procure the book as soon as the credits started rolling. The book feels like the script of the show. I don't even think they even removed or changed a single word in adapting this, which shows just how tight the writing was to begin with. It's the writing that really truly touched me. Charles' narration is so gorgeous, and I wanted a bit of this at a slower pace where I could reread and highlight and read aloud for myself. Brideshead is very much about things which I've always been fascinated with, and I saw a lot of myself in Charles' love for hedonism, the upper echelons of society, intellectual pursuits, beautiful people and surroundings. His love for Sebastian moved me so much. In fact, Sebastian is the most moving character of this book. You're never told why he's deeply unhappy, but it doesn't take a lot to imagine how heartbreaking it must have been to grow up with a cold mother in a society which doesn't accept you much. He was gay at a time when it was actually illegal. The religious part of Brideshead I found interesting. I studied with Charles a lot, and the ending surprised me. But I also feel like for people who want to live right, strict adherence to any kind of organised religion might seem like a natural thing to devote oneself to. I'm not religious, and I'm usually bored with any talk of religion in fiction, but I found all of the discussions very interesting. I have a lot of thoughts about Brideshead. This was my first war, and it was contemplative, yet approachable, sad, yet not without humour, and I can see myself reading it when I'm older. I can already tell it's one of those books I'm going to think differently about with every reread. this changed me, honestly. This changed me quite a bit. I loved it so much. It consumed me again, and it made me think of so many things at the same time, and it brought up so many things about religion, about my personal relationship with beauty and with the past and with the aristocracy. It was excellent, honestly excellent. I highly recommend it, and you might, I can imagine some people not loving it, because again it's very contemplative, very slow, but the writing is so gorgeous and so packed full of details, of beautiful details. There is an appreciation for art and beauty and intellectualism and books and reading and the past in this book, which I found so marvellous and exactly what I want to do with my life a little bit. But it's also a criticism really of that lifestyle, so interesting to the point of being just, I was obsessed with it, honestly. Just to quote about happiness in this book, and another one about Oxford. I'll start with Oxford. Oxford, submerged now and obliterated, irreconcilable as Lyonese, so quickly have the waters come flooding in. Oxford in those days was still a city of aquatint. In her spacious and quiet streets, men walked and spoke as they had done in Newman's day. Her autumnal mists, her grey springtime, and the rare glory of her summer days, such as that day, when the chestnut was in flower, and the bells rang out high and clear over her gables and cupolas, exhaled the soft airs of centuries of youth. It was this cloistral hush which gave her laughter its resonance, and carried it still, joyously, over the intervening clamour. Here, discordantly, in Eight's week, came a rabble of womankind, some hundred strong, twittering and fluttering over the couples and up the steps, sightseeing and pleasure-seeking, drinking claret cup, eating cucumber sandwiches, pushed in punts about the river, herding in droves to college barges, greeted in the Isis and in the Union by a sudden display of peculiar facetious, wholly distressing Gilbert and Sullivan badinage, and by peculiar choral effects in the college chapels. And about happiness, it was about 11 when Sebastian, without warning, turned the car into a car track and stopped. It was hot enough now to make us seek the shade. On a sheep-cropped knoll under a clump of elms, we ate the strawberries and drank the wine. As Sebastian promised, they were delicious together. And we lit fat Turkish cigarettes and lay on our backs, Sebastian's eyes on the leaves above him, mine in his profile, while the blue-grey smoke rose, untroubled by any wind, to the blue-green shadows of foliage, and the sweet scent of the tobacco merged with the sweet summer scents around us, and the fumes of the sweet golden wine seemed to lift us a finger's breadth above the turf and hold us suspended. Just the place to bury a crock of gold, said Sebastian. I should like to bury something precious in every place where I've been happy, and then when I was old and ugly and miserable, I could come back and dig it up and remember. Yeah. Cozy mystery. I read Death by Darjeeling by Laura Childs, which was so good, absolutely gorgeous. This is the first book actually in her tea shop mystery series set in Charleston. It's about Theodosia, who is the owner of a tea shop in Charleston, and she has also a tea sommelier called Wharton, and she organises party, tea, afternoon teas, that sort of thing, and she's catering for this event, and she encounters the death of a property developer, and she investigates that. This has absolutely gorgeous writing, the kind of writing which I wish every single cozy mystery had, which is immersive, full of details about the occupation of the main character. So she's a tea shop owner, she's got a tea sommelier, they talk about teas a lot, they are very knowledgeable about teas, a lot of details about teas, which I love, and also the town which she's in. So she lives in Charleston, and there are lots of details about Charleston as well. Exactly the kind of mystery that I love. The plot was great, it was packed, it was very tight. I loved this so much, honestly, and again, this is the kind of cozy mystery that I absolutely love. Ordinarily, Theodosia revelled in the oasis of calm her little tea shop afforded, tucked between Robillard booksellers and the antiquarian map store in the historic districts of Charleston, South Carolina. The Indigo tea shop was one stitch in the romantic pastel tapestry of Georgian, Federal and Victorian homes, courtyard gardens and quaint shops. Inside this former carriage house and tiny treasure, copper teapots hissed and bubbles, fresh-baked pastries cooled on wooden racks, and patrons scrambled for a coveted seat at one of the creaking hickory tables. Leaded glass windows, a wavering scrim to temper the intense South Carolina sun, cast filtered light on pegged wooden floors, exposed beams, and brick walls. And a description of tea. Floor to ceiling, a warren of cubby-holes held jars brimming with black powders, crumpled leaves of nut brown and ochre, and shiny whole leaves that shimmered like shiny celadon. And what a tantalizing spectrum of aromas. Piquant, gunpowdered green tea from South China, lightly fermented Ceylonese garden tea, delicate fruited niggly tea from the Blue Mountains of India. Wonderful. In Golden Age Mystery, I read Murder in the Mews by Agatha Christie, which actually in my edition, it's a collection of short stories. I think there are 3, but in my edition it was just 1 short story, so that was very quick. It was about Barbara, who is kind of found dead from a room which is locked from the inside, I think, by her roommate Jane. And Jane, I love the Jane in this book. This has got Inspector Japp and Poirot, who each has got his own method of investigating, which was very nice actually. I love the blend between the 2 as well. It was nice to see their train of thoughts, kind of. And Barbara was involved with a person who is in politics as well. Jane finds her body. There are a lot of clothes which are very cleverly done. I really enjoyed this story, but again, it was a short story, so there isn't much to say. I read Dumb Witness by Agatha Christie, which was a full-length novel. I don't see this book talked about much, but it was one of my favourites by her actually. It was so tight. It was an inheritance plot. Emily dies. She was very wealthy. Her entire family kind of flocks to her bed when she's on her deathbed, and she surprisingly leaves everything to her lady's companion. So they all kind of want to know what happened. Her death is seemingly a natural death, but was it really? Poirot receives a letter from her which was dated from before she was dead, telling him about an unusual thing which happened to her one day, and she's worried about her future and she's worried about her life. So he receives this letter after her death, and he investigates to see whether or not it was natural death or not. This was really a very good inheritance plot. I think what makes it even better really is that the ending and the solution was amazing. I was blown away by the solution to this. I couldn't see it coming, first of all, and it was very described, detailed, morally interesting, I would say. It really challenges you morally, like what would you have done in this situation. It was so good. It was so good and took it to really a higher place to me. Yeah, so again, just an inheritance plot, which is, there was a lot of that in Christie, which I love. It's one of my catnips, and one of my catnip plots. And the solution was just marvellous, honestly marvellous. I wasn't expecting that at all. It was a reread, but I couldn't remember anything on the first read, so that was great. This actually, I usually say that you can read Agatha Christie in any order as long as you don't start with Curtain, the Poirot novels. But this is my second time actually encountering a book which spoils other books in the series, so interesting. The ABC Murders spoils Cards on the Table and Curtain, and this one spoils, I think I wrote it down, this one spoils, yeah, Death in the Clouds, The Mysterious Affair Styles, The Mother of Roger Ackroyd, and Mystery of the Blue Train. Can you imagine? However, like, it's a conversation between Poirot and Japp. I don't remember what happened when this and this and this happened, and you realise actually reference to other books. This book references other books and spoils them. However, I keep wondering, like, if you're a first reader, like if you pick up this book, do you realise they're talking about other books and the plot of other books? I don't know. I don't know. And would you, when you pick up these other books, recognise that and think, oh well, I don't need to read that book, and I already know the ending, which was spoiled to me in that other book? I don't know. So maybe I'm reading too much into this, but definitely this spoils other books, definitely. So maybe you need to read them in order. I don't know. I read Harvey's Carcase by Dorothy Sayers, which is the next book to me, book in the Lord Peter Wimsey series. This stars very much Harriet Vane, who is his love interest. She's a writer, she's a mystery writer, and we met her actually for the first time in the previous book, Strong Poison. In this book, she's alone investigating. She goes on a holiday in the by the seaside, and she comes across a corpse. She is completely alone, and she sees that the tide's actually turning, and the tide is coming. It's going to engulf this corpse. So she takes pictures. She tries to remember as much as possible about the scene, and she rushes to the nearest village to inform the police. And so this happens, and then when they come back, the corpse has gone. Actually, the body has completely disappeared. So they've only got her word for what happened, and this is where the investigation becomes complicated, really. So this had a lot. The plot was convoluted, I thought, but the investigating and again, Dorothy Elsayer's writing is so fun, so fast paced. Her dialogues are impeccable. She really puts you right into the thick of things, and she's so clever. There are so many references, and she's really an intelligent writer, and her characters are very intelligent as well. I love Lord Peter and Harriet in this. It's the kind of book where the relationship is really funny, actually, because they will be talking about something completely down to earth, and suddenly he will interrupt and say, well, will you marry me? And she will say no, like 20 times throughout the course of the book, which I think is just so fun, and kind of the ideal relationship to me. And so he keeps pestering her about marriage because he fell in love with her at first sight, and she's not used to that. And yeah, they've got absolutely magical scenes together, and she's warming up to him. Like in this scene, actually, when she's warming up to him very much, Harriet felt that Whimsy ought to be saying, how well you dance, they're dancing. Since he did not say it, she became convinced that she was dancing like a wax doll with sawdust legs. Whimsy had never danced with her, never held her in his arms before. It should have been an epoch-making moment for him, but his mind appeared to be concentrated upon the dull personality of the East Anglian farmer. She fell a victim to an inferiority complex and tripped over her partner's feet. Sorry, said Whimsy, accepting responsibility like a gentleman. It's my fault, said Harriet. I'm a rotten dancer. Don't bother about me. Let's stop. You haven't got to be polite to me, you know. Worse and worse. She was being peevish and egotistical. Whimsy glanced down at her in surprise and then suddenly smiled. Darling, if you danced like an elderly elephant with arthritis, I would dance the sun and moon into the sea with you. I have waited 1,000 years to see you dance in that frock. Idiot, said Harriet. Yeah, lovely. In historical mystery, oh my god, I read The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie by Alan Bradley, which is the first book in the Fabulous Deleuze series. I'm completely in love. This is so good. This was amazing. I loved it so much. I haven't felt that way about a historical mystery series in a long time. This is my favourite right now. Actually, I've only read just one book, but I can't wait to read the rest. It was spectacular. It's about Flavia, who is, I think, 11 or so. She's obsessed with poison. She's a chemist, and she's got a sanctum sanctorium. I love that. She's a chemist, and she lives in the sleepy village of Buckshaw in the 1950s, I believe. And one day she sees a bird with a stamp in its beak on her doorstep, and you know, very soon later, she finds a corpse in her garden as well. So she connects the two and finds that something is wrong, and is going wrong in the village. And they've got to investigate that. She was brilliant. I loved her so much. I loved her intellect. I loved her passion, her curiosity, her taste for books. She's very much a bookworm. She's got a sister as well who's a bookworm. They've got a very sibling relationship, which was very interesting. I loved the writing so much. It was so clever. I actually didn't talk about it, but I have his Carcase, but the other thing I'll say is has got a cipher in the middle of the book, which takes several pages to work out. And I was actually there with my piece of paper and my pen, just trying to work out the cipher along with the characters, and couldn't at some point. Well, up to a certain point. Flavia actually never lost me. It was so good, and all of the puzzles were so interesting and so clever, and I could follow them just fine, and they were just wonderful, honestly. And again, the level of writing and the references and the detailed descriptions are just so good. I just love this historical mystery so much. It was so immersive and just wonderful and intellectual in the best way. A few quotes for you about her fearlessness. I wish I could say I was afraid, but I wasn't. Quite the contrary. This was by far the most interesting thing that had ever happened to me in my entire life. About chemistry, what intrigued me more than anything was finding out the way in which everything, all of creation, all of it, was held together by invisible chemical bonds, and I find a strange, inexplicable comfort in knowing that somewhere, even though we couldn't see it in our own world, there was real stability. Which I think is comforting, actually. She revels in the written word. She has a love of literature and of words, which is so endearing. How I gloried in the antiquated names just waiting to be plucked from its pages. Butter of antimony, flowers of arsenic, rank poisons, I've always called them. But I revelled in the recitation of their names like a hog at a spa. King's yellow, I said aloud, rolling the words round in my mouth, savouring them in spite of their poisonous nature. Crystals of Venus, fuming liquor of boil, oil of ants. My head was spinning. I could think of nothing better to calm it down than the Oxford English Dictionary. And last quote, Heaven must be a place where the library is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In the Cozy Village Tale category, I read Jane of Lantern Hill by Montgomery, which is a book that I have read before, but I couldn't remember anything by. Jane is overlooked by her own family, and she is raised by her grandmother. Something tragic happened between her parents. She's raised by her grandmother, and her grandmother thinks that she's not interested in ladylike pursuits enough. One day she's contacted by a father who she thought dead, and he invites her to live with him on Prince Edward Island, and she blossoms there. They form an absolutely beautiful friendship together, and he sees her for what she is, for who she is, and she's finally able to find joy in the pastimes which she absolutely loves, and the passions she loves, and develop her love of nature, and just become the woman that she's always meant to be. I love Lucy Montgomery's heroines. I think they are just lovely and unforgettable each time. I love Anne, I love Valency, and I love Jane, honestly, and I just absolutely love this book so much. A few quotes for you. If you couldn't be loved, the next best thing was to be let alone. And happiness. At sunset, Jane and Dad went down to the outside shore, as they were to do almost every night of that enchanted summer. All along the silvery curving sand ran a silvery curving wave. A dim, white-sailed vessel drifted past the bar of the showery dune. The revolving light across the channel was winking at them. A great headland of gold and purple ran out behind it. At sunset, that cape became a place of mystery to Jane. What lay beyond it? Magic seas and fairyland forlorn. Jane couldn't remember what she had heard or read that phrase, but it suddenly came alive to her. She finally has a feeling of home and belonging, which is there with her father, and she can develop her talents as well. Jane was very capable and could do almost anything she tried to do. It was nice to live where you could show how capable you were. This was her own world, and she was a person of importance in it. There was joy in her heart and clock round. Life here was one endless adventure. I read Vittoria Cottage by G.E. Stevenson, which was about Caroline, who is a widow with 3 children, and she lives in a village, in a Scottish village actually, and she is kind of interested in her gardens and in the running of her life. She has domestic pursuits. And she has a sister called Harriet, who's actually on the stage in London. One day, Robert, a mysterious man, enters her life and changes it for the better and forever. It's a lovely, lovely romance, just like T. Stevenson is well known for, and it was a beautiful book actually. I loved it so much. It was very full of domestic scenes. It's also one of the books which really infuriated me. She has a housekeeper called Comfort, and there is a lot of talk about weight and about food in this book in a negative way, because Comfort is overweight, and there is a lot of medical talk in this which made me really uncomfortable. Everyone loves Comfort, she's a gem, but the way they talk about her weight and the way she talks about herself made me really uncomfortable. Just be aware of that. There was also a scene towards the end which made me uncomfortable between Caroline and her daughter. There was a scene in that which really infuriated me. It's between Caroline and her daughter. They have an agreement at the end of the book, and Caroline says something and feels something which is entirely connected to religion, and which I could not connect with. Again, I'm not religious, so sometimes religious stuff just goes over my head, and this was a specific scene which I thought was just so out of place and took me out of the book completely. So what a warning about that as well. I'd be curious to see if anybody else reacted to it the way I did. It didn't prevent me from enjoying the book, but yeah, that was very uncomfortable. Okay. There is a lot about everyday magic in this book. I just want to give you a quote that was important to me. She saw beauty in ordinary little things and took pleasure in it. She took pleasure in a well-made cake, a smoothly ironed napkin, a pretty blouse, laundered and pressed. She liked to see the garden well dug, the rich soil brown and gravid. She loved her flowers. When you are young, you are too busy with yourself, so Caroline thought. You haven't time for ordinary little things, but when you leave youth behind, your eyes open and you see magic and mystery all around you. Magic in the flight of a bird, the shape of a leaf, the bold arch of a bridge against the sky, footsteps at nights and a voice calling in the darkness, the moment in a theatre before the curtain rises, the wind in the trees, or in winter, an apple branch clothed with pure white snow and icicles hanging from a stone and sparkling with rainbow colours. also about family, which I thought was so poignant, and I had never seen that expressed in that way before. Caroline's daughters did not know her, of course. They loved her, but they had no idea who she was. She was their mother. She has always been the same and always would be. They accepted the fact that she was interested in their affairs, but it had never occurred to them that she might be interested in herself, or that they might be interested in her. Yeah, so a lot to unpack, and unexpected depth in that book, honestly. I read Before Lunch by Angela Thirkell, who's one of my favourite writers. She writes she writes village tales as well in the English countryside, and she is always full of humour. Her books don't make me laugh out loud most of the time, but they've got very fun scenes and just a lightness to them, which I really, really, really love so much. This one was about Jack Middleton, who lives with his wife Catherine, I think, in a village, and his I think his sister-in-law Lillian comes to live with them at some point with her two stepchildren, and her two stepchildren are very much eccentric characters. They come out of nowhere. They are very apprehensive about this visit, but things happen, a lot of matchmaking happens, a lot of fun scenes happen as well. It's just a very funny book, and I really enjoyed it. It wasn't my favourite because it wasn't funny haha, like two of her books actually are. Wild Strawberries and High Rising made me laugh out loud so much, but it was very like pure Angela Thirkell, and I really enjoyed it. I read The Darling Buds of May by H.E. Bates, where has it been all of my life? I actually saw the recent BBC adaptation of the ITV, I think, adaptation of Darling Buds of May, which was so good. It was one of my favourite things ever. I had never read the book, so I read the first book, which is about this family and this eccentric, pleasure-seeking, hedonistic family who is like full of children who all appreciate life and colour and the pleasures of life very, very much. They have no kind of no worries, no responsibility, no cares, and one day the an inspector, actually a tax inspector, comes to visit them and to claim the income tax they have been neglecting all of these years. And he gets kind of invited into this family, and they make him comfortable, and they make him comfortable with their daughter, and things, you know, just take a marvelous turn. And it's a beautiful, sunny book. If you're in need of comfort, if you're in need of sunshine and fun in your life, read this. This is so good, and just feel the hole in my heart. Honestly, it was beautiful. Here's my review. Oh wow, what did you want? I don't know how to describe this book. It's a small, perfectly round pastry, a profiterole, if you will, of a book. It's delicious, it's filled with gooey laughter, and it's small and sharp. At its heart, it's a comedy featuring an eccentric family. It's round and warm and gorgeous and bathing in the sun. I wish I knew more people like the characters depicted in the book, the kind that take you in without thinking, feed you more than your stomach can handle, insist you can stay for more, fill you with goodness, generosity, and hilarious stories. Before you know it, that hello is turning into a whole weekend of the stuff of dreams. The Darling Buds of May is a special book. It made me long for a hedonistic life where my only concern would be to just sit back and enjoy. Yeah, so lots of quotes here about food, about the light, about colours, about just the sweetness of life, about love and about friendship. It was beautiful. I'm in love. And finally, I read The Code of the Woosters by P.G. Wodehouse, which is a book in the Jeeves and Wooster series by P.G. Wodehouse. This is a reread. I turn to P.G. Wodehouse in case of emergency. He's my emergency author. His books never disappoint. He's beautiful and wonderful and funny and sharp and just absolutely just the best writer, honestly. I love his books so much, and I kind of ration them because I just want to keep them in my stash, again, in case of emergency. They are laugh out loud books for me. The Code of the Woosters was no exception. Jeeves is desperate for Bertie to go on a round the world trip, and Bertie disagrees, doesn't want to go. But Bertie is actually about to celebrate the nuptials of two of his friends, and things go very wrong indeed. There is a cow creamer in this, there is a notebook, there is a policeman. There are like shenanigans just happening as usual in a Jeeves book, and Bertie is saved time and again by Jeeves and his absolute glorious mind. And this book is just absolutely gorgeous book. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite Jeeves books, and I highly recommend it. It is laugh out loud again, and I want to read P.G. Wodehouse forever and ever. This is the end of this video. Thank you so much for staying with me, especially since I couldn't speak today. I don't know what's wrong with me. this was a 3-day weekend. Today is Sunday. I'm going to very much have something to eat. I don't know what time it is, but I'm going to have something to eat at lunch perhaps, and yeah, just enjoy the rest of this day. I have read already it's the 3rd of May and I've read 2 books already, so May is shaping out to be a very good reading month indeed. And again, I've got several bank holidays to look forward to and some reading time to look forward to, so I can't wait. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I will see you when I'm 38 then. This is weird to say. Yeah, enjoy the month of May, honestly, and enjoy the 14th in particular if you can, and raise a glass to me, and if you want to join the festivities. I'm going to blow candles, have a cake. I'm going to make myself my own cake. I'm going to make my carrot cake because I love it so much, and order barbecue food, and it's going to be a wonderful day. I hope you have a very good Sunday, and I will see you very soon. I love you. Bye.